what we will be talking today about is about the scholarship itself, a little bit about your future, hopefully, and a little bit on how you perceived GUE before, how do you perceive it now, and how you would see it in the future from a perspective of a next generation. So let me start with first question. So before you even thought about the scholarship, I know that you have taken fundamentals in UK, I think?
Yes.
Cold water.
Yeah.
So what was your perception by that time when you have been, signing up for that course about GUE?
That's a good question. So it was actually at the time that COVID happened, and I remember it very well because I was about to go to Antarctica for my master's project, but literally we were going to the airport and it was all cancelled because of the restrictions. So I had a bit of grant money and I had a bit of my own savings, and I thought what else I could do with it. And because all our field courses and scientific diving courses during that master's degree were cancelled, I kind of had a bit of a mad Google search to see if I could find anything that fits with my desire to not only have a good quality dive training, but find an organisation that fits with my values of project diving and scientific research, in particular in extreme environments. And somehow I stumbled across GUE, and it was exactly what I was looking for in an agency. And I was surprised I never had come across it before, but being a broke student, when you first Google how to dive, it comes up with other agencies, and I suppose I didn't know any different in my training. So I looked at it, and I had that money spare, so I decided to go for it. My perception of it, I was nervous, not gonna lie, at the time, because I first perceived GUE to be very rigorous, which it is, but in terms of the social media and marketing side of things, I mostly saw technical cave divers who were in dry suits and these massive big tanks, which were what I thought were tied together, which I now know to be doubles. And to me, those divers didn't look like me. So I was scared because I did not know how I could become one of them divers, but in a sense that fueled my desire to learn how to be a diver like that, I suppose.
So it's a little bit scary in the beginning?
Yes, only because I didn't see a diver that looked like me on there, but the more I learned about GUE, the more I realised that it was more about not only just technical and cave diving, but more scientific research and project diving, and the community is so inclusive that I realised that there are divers like me who rocked up with a single tank and didn't know what else was out there.
So you started with GUE fundamentals?
Yes, I did.
It was recreational fundamentals in a single tank?
Yes, it was, yeah.
In a dry suit?
Yes, that was my first time I was really wearing a dry suit. I did a few dives before, but I did not feel confident. And my instructor was John Kendall, and I was definitely all over the place a bit. I didn't know what to do with my feet, and it was also the first time I wore a backplate and wing setup.
So it was kind of a challenge in the beginning.
It was. I threw myself in quite a lot.
And I know that you can throw yourself in many things now. So the other thing is, so you did a GUE fundamentals course, then you took off somewhere. I think it was Saudi Arabia for a bit.
It was. Actually, directly after that, I got trapped. Very, very unfortunate. I got trapped in the Maldives because of the second wave of COVID, and I worked there as a marine biologist for a bit, doing educational tours for school children and really just snorkeling. So we didn't really do much diving. And then, yes, I got my first graduate job in Saudi Arabia working as a field technician and an expedition coordinator.
Yeah, super interesting. So now I think we got you with a scholarship on the ship. So you have been on the expedition ship. So how did you, or what made you apply for the scholarship?
Oh, yeah. So I actually found out about the scholarship. I think it was in 2020 or 2021, a year after I actually applied. The power of social media, actually. I was looking through Instagram, and I had a few friends who I followed who had other diving scholarships, and somebody called Annika was tagged, and I thought, oh, she looks cool, and I clicked on her link, and she was something called a GUE scholar, and I thought, okay, this is pretty cool, because I really loved the GUE classes and the courses, but the price for a student was a lot.
Yeah.
It was a lot. And I saw that, okay, if there is a scholarship out there, maybe I could one day apply as well. I had to wait a bit because of COVID, and you were right. I applied when I was on an expedition ship in the middle of the Saudi Arabian Red Sea, so we had little internet. So as part of the application, we had to make a video.
Yes, I remember that.
And I basically pulled a bunch of clips together from my time on the vessel, did a voiceover, and sent it off, really.
Yes. And then here we are. So how was it, or how did you learn about that you won the scholarship? So how was the feeling? It's like, oh, okay.
It was so unexpected. I was so sure I wasn't going to get it that I actually, I have a friend in the Bahamas who invited me over to do a side mount course and learn about some shark conservation over there. And so while I was there, I was bouncing about a bit in the US. So I was busy over the time that I knew the GUE conference was going to be, but some part of me just kept those dates just in case. But I was so convinced I wasn't going to get it that I did plan courses and things to develop my other skills directly before and after said conference. And I remember it was the middle of September, and I was deciding what my next steps were, and I got an email saying, you're one of the top 10 and you're invited for interview. Are you free tomorrow? And I thought, yes. And not gonna lie, a part of me was a little bit hoping. Because me and Annika had talked quite a lot, because I asked her a few questions, and she was talking to me about when she first heard. So a part of me was a bit excited, but I didn't get my hopes up too much.
Okay.
And I remember sitting down for the interview, and there was a blank screen, and they introduced themselves and said, oh, I'll just go and get the interviewer. I'll be 1 second. And then suddenly the screen flicked to life, and Jared was there. And I was like, oh. And I was shocked. I was speechless, because I kind of then saw where this was going. And he said, I have just one question for you. Do you know what it is? And I said, no. And he said, when do you want to start? And in that moment, my heart stopped, and I was speechless. I was so shocked that somebody like me would get something like this. And it was a proud moment. It was a very proud moment.
So now you're a Next Gen scholar, yes? So your first step or your first trip was to Florida to the conference where we kind of publicly announced it.
Yes.
So how did you feel when you came there? So what have been your perception when you arrived at the conference in November?
Not gonna lie, I was quite worried. I came with imposter syndrome, I suppose, because...
Imposter syndrome, that's okay.
Because everyone that I had read about for so long, and the individuals in the GUE community are kind of what I aspire to be as well. Not only divers, but scientists and explorers, making a real difference in not only technical diving, but recreation and education, teaching and conservation. And I was scared, I suppose is the right word, that I would not live up to, I suppose, expectations, or the expectations that I had on myself to deliver as the scholar. And I suppose I had, and I still have, some high ambitions and goals for this scholarship, and I want to be a good example. I want to achieve or be the best I can be, or if not, showcase my perseverance in meeting those expectations as well.
Yeah. So what did you, when you got the scholarship, what have been your hopes or your ideas or your plans? Just because now we are kind of in the middle of it, because it's already a few months.
Yes.
We spent like a month together almost working. So I know we're a little bit better now. So what is it? How have you been? So what did you thought that you will get out of it? Like, and before knowing what actually you are doing now. So when you came there, so what have been your kind of, I will do that? Or?
Interesting questions. I suppose it was a kind of a multifaceted approach that I thought. There was one question in the application where it asked you that, what are your top 3 courses which you would like to take? And I already knew that I was going to be a bit different from what Annika was wanting to achieve. So Annika, the previous scholar, was more focused on tech and cave diving. And I really wanted to approach it from the scientific and exploration and recreational side. So I always knew that I wanted to do a scientific diving course, and in that, adding to my skills on photography, so doing a photogrammetry course. I also wanted to learn more about the teaching and education process, and I have a goal, and I don't mind how long it takes, but eventually I would love to become a GUE instructor as well, and inspire that. Yes, hopefully, and inspire that next generation as well. And I suppose those are my main aims. But then an overarching theme is that I wanted to showcase the more recreational and scientific side of GUE, because for me, I didn't really see any, or not as many individuals who were advocating that as GUE. And I understand that it was mostly about technical and cave diving, but the more I spoke with the community, the more I found out about the scientific projects that were there, or the individuals that love to teach the recreational side. I wanted to showcase that a bit more and make it a bit more open and inclusive, because I received so many messages from individuals who were a bit scared to join GUE because they didn't know how to use a doubles or a dry suit, and they saw me learning or saw me in a wetsuit initially, and they thought, if she can do that, so can I, and I'm proud of that.
So now I have a question, because now here you have done a double.
Yes.
You have done a dry suit training.
Yes.
So do you think there is a risk that you will wander that direction, or you will
we never say never. I mean,
stay with recreation?
The amount of people that asked me at the conference, so when you're doing your Tech 1, never say never. For now, I think that I would need to develop my global awareness and work on my skills still a bit more. So for this year, I really want to focus on all aspects of the scientific and recreational diving, and potentially work towards teaching, getting more experience in terms of instructing. Eventually, yes, I would love to maybe get a tech pass, and we could do that in the future. But for now, we're sticking with the science and recreational for now.
And I'm really happy to hear that.
Yeah.
Right. We are at the stage that you said you would like to be more involved in the recreational part of things at GUE.
Yes.
So now you are maybe not very typical GUE person, because we are cave oriented, we are tech oriented, but there are quite a few. And you met Gemma this week.
I did. Yes, she was lovely.
Super recreational oriented and really passionate about teaching recreational divers. But so the question from my perspective is, knowing that GUE community is so tech oriented or cave oriented, how did you feel, or how did you feel with the community welcoming you as part of GUE? So how did it go for you?
Yeah, definitely. So I suppose it started at the conference, and, walking into a room of 200 plus people who I didn't know, and standing up on stage and basically announcing to this community of, as you said, more technically orientated divers that I am me and I want to work on scientific vessels and pursue and advocate for the recreational scientific side of things. And everyone was super lovely about it. I suppose as well, during that time, I got to know everyone, and the support that they offered me was insane. I left making so many amazing connections in terms of projects that I could get involved with, people who offered me, accommodation to stay if I came, free diving, training, or even partnerships, because individuals that were there looking for teammates on, for example, photogrammetry, which we did when I was here, so that was super lovely. I suppose as well, my choosing as the scholar came at a very good time, because I know now that you have the Project Diver modules coming up, and also that there are a few changes in terms of the distinction between recreational and technical courses that GUE offers. So I suppose my acceptance of the scholarship was quite serendipitous in its timing, because I applied and my application was focused on the science, the projects, the recreation and the education. And so I think I'm a good advocate for that. And in terms of the things that I mentioned, the community is definitely showing its more inclusive side in that aspect, and with the things that you said.